It just says going live soon.
Hello. Yeah, we're good now. Hello, welcome
Okay.
to another edition of our Kind Live show, The Boob. We are really excited to be here with you guys tonight, as always. We love spending these Tuesday nights with our kind community. Before we get started answering your questions, as always, I just wanted to remind everybody about our free breastfeeding starter pack. So, everybody that's watching tonight can get a free starter pack, which will give you everything that you need to try the Kind system. We just ask that you pay $6 to cover shipping. And if you already are using Kind, you already have the system, please feel free to share this live tonight with your friends or family or anyone you think may be interested in taking advantage of that deal. It makes a great baby shower gift, whatever you want to use it for. I'll also have Emma, who's kind of doing the back end of things for us, put that link that's across the screen in the comments. That way you don't have to memorize the link. You can just click on it. But just to let you know what you'll get in that, you're going to get everything that you need to try the system. So you're going to get the adapters that connect to your pump. The starter pack comes with multiple adapters, so it's compatible with most pumps on the market. This is a Medela flange, which uses our standard adapter. And you're just going to twist it on there. And then from there, you can twist your pouch on for direct pump. So this allows you to pump directly into the pouch. That way you don't have to transfer your milk to a bottle or anything like that. You can just pump into that pouch. Once you're done pumping, you take it off. You can store with the lid on it, of course. You can go in the fridge, the freezer, just following regular breast milk storage guidelines. And when you're ready, you can warm in this pouch, and then you can pop it into the twist squeeze bottle for feeding. So it just pops right in here. Easy peasy. And when you're ready, you pop your nipple on. This is our active latch nipple, which does come in the starter pack. If you have a preference of nipple or your baby has a preference, we know how that can be. You can also use our adapters to feed with most nipples on the market. So kind of the same thing as your pump. The adapter is just going to screw on to the nipple and then the nipple onto the bag. So that way you can still get the benefit of direct pumping to direct feeding, no transfers, but you can use the nipple that your baby prefers. So also in that starter pack, you're going to get a couple of coupons for more pouches and for our larger twist gift set. So be sure advantage of that deal. And speaking of the twist gift set, one of you is going to win one tonight. So be sure to engage on this live, comment, ask us a question, share it with your friends, share it with your family, and hang out with us as we answer questions tonight. And at the end, we will draw one of you to win a gift set. So we are really excited to do that. How was your week, Dominique?
It was okay. I mean, we're trying to survive virtual learning and all that fun stuff. So we're hanging
Right.
in.
That's about how we feel about it too. We're doing better. We're actually doing better than I thought we would.
Yeah.
But still getting used to everything. So yeah, well, I'm glad to hear that you guys are doing well. Let's get started answering some questions. What do
Yay!
you say? We've got some good questions to answer tonight. This question says, I am a teen mom and pregnant with my first baby, a girl. So exciting. What are the benefits for pumping versus formula? How much should I plan to pump? If my milk supply isn't great, will it improve?
There's a lot of good.
So yeah, so maybe we should just start with the first one. So what's the benefit of pumping versus formula? Or maybe we can just talk a little bit, Dominique, about what some of the differences are in breast milk
Yeah.
versus formula.
So, the difference is, of course, it's specific for humans, right? You are a person and you're making this milk for your baby who is also a person. Formula is cow's milk and it's not made for your baby. It's made for baby cows that has been broken down and processed so that your baby can digest it, but it's not necessarily milk for your baby. So if you're able to give your milk, it's good if you can, whether it's pumped or to the breast. Breast milk naturally has the antivirals, antibacteria, and even if you are exclusively pumping, it's got other things in there to boost that immune system, especially, your kid's probably going to have to go to daycare or have to be watched by somebody else. So you want your kid to have a good immune system when they're being in contact with other people and their germs. And, it's just a little bit more convenient. You don't have to go to the store and purchase it. It is your milk. It is there. You don't have to worry about, did somebody remember to buy the can when they went out to the grocery store or anything like that? Like, as long as you stay on your pumping schedule, it's there. And you don't necessarily have to put your baby on the breast. You can just pump. That's totally fine too. And you'll just be bottle feeding your breast milk. So I think we got that first part.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's just breast milk's pretty amazing that it's constantly changing and
Yeah.
tailor-made for your baby. Obviously, we all know that formula is a way to feed babies, and we never would say, like, our number one goal as lactation professionals is to feed your baby.
Right.
We want to make sure that your baby is getting fed. But the benefits of breast milk are really, like Dominique said, that it's just customized to your baby. Your body knows what they need. You're getting, any immunoprotection, things like that are coming from it, and it's constantly changing, which is really great. And the only other thing I would like to add is just that every single drop counts. So, breast milk and breastfeeding doesn't ever have to be all or nothing. And I think it's important that we talk about that, because obviously, we think that however you choose to feed your baby is great. Exclusively breastfeeding, we know there are a lot of benefits to that, but we also know that there are many reasons that may not happen. And it doesn't mean that you can't have any breastfeeding experience. Right. You can have whatever experience fits your goals. But anyway, so let's talk a little bit, Dominique, about if somebody does choose to exclusively pump from birth, what does that look like? Because we talk a lot about, like, the golden hour and latching your baby right away and why that's so crucial. But what about for the parent who may not want to bring their baby to the breast?
That is a good question. And what that would look like is just essentially you pumping in the hospital whenever it's time for your baby to feed. I usually encourage parents that are choosing to go this route to start pumping within an hour after the baby is born. So take that first hour to do that skin to skin and get the juices flowing, so to say. And then once that time has passed, go ahead and start pumping. And I just say, you can be more regimented and pump every 3 hours for at least 15 minutes, or you can be what I call an ish pumper and pump every 2 hours ish or every 3 hours ish, depending on, how frequently your baby feeds, because that's what they would be doing at the breast anyway. So feeding or pumping when they're feeding isn't necessarily harmful, to your supply either. And also understand too, you may have to do formula in the beginning for at least the first 2 or 3 days in the hospital, because not everybody responds the same to the breast pump in the early days, and you may not be able to pump out as much colostrum as the baby is needing. So, keep pumping and give the colostrum that you are able to pump. And then if baby still seems a little hungry after that, you can follow up with a little bit of formula. Also, too, you can try hand expressing. Where I work, I try to encourage moms all the time, hey, pump for 15 minutes and maybe every other pump session, do like 5 minutes of hand expression afterwards. This way, hand expressing with colostrum, you usually get a little bit more milk than you do with the breast pump. And some moms say that they can get a lot more milk via hand expressing than they do with the breast pump. So it could, that's just what I suggest. But normally, it's just going to be you pumping very frequently in the hospital. And yes, even in the middle of the night, whenever the baby is hungry. for at least 15 minutes to get your full milk to come in faster, and so that baby can get all the colostrum that that they can.
Yeah, so I mean, really, if you kind of think about it, it doesn't look that much different than feeding a baby at the breast,
Nope.
right? You're doing it in a different modality. So, exclusively pumping doesn't necessarily. I mean, there's a lot of benefits to pumping as far as like if you don't want to bring your baby to the breast, that's not something that's comfortable for you, but it's not necessarily like a time difference or anything like
Right.
that. You're still feeding that baby or that pump regularly. And you'll figure out what works for you if you pump and then feed, or feed and then pump, or another caregiver pumps, or excuse me, feeds while you pump.
Right.
Then that's how it kind of works out. And then the last part of that question was, if my milk supply isn't great, will it improve? And I think the important thing to remember with this is that from the go, your milk supply is going to be perfect for your baby.
Right.
So we don't make ounces and ounces of milk right away because our baby's not ready for that. They are born, they've been practicing swallowing very small amounts of amniotic fluid. They have tiny little tummies. So your milk supply will increase with your baby's demand. So I would say your milk supply will be great from the get-go. It's the expectation of what, you're not going to have 6 ounces of milk every feeding the first day that your baby's born. That's just not, because you don't need that. So your supply will increase as your baby's demand increases. And if for some reason you were concerned about it, then that's when it's time to reach out to a lactation professional. If you don't have access to one locally, of course, you can always email us. Dominique answers those emails for us at LC, and she can help answer your questions or get you in touch with somebody locally for a hands-on assessment. This is a great question that I think Dominique should definitely know the answer to. Are lactation consultants usually covered by insurance? If not, are there any low-cost programs you can suggest? And that question's from Ashley.
All right, so yes and no. The Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, mandates that insurance has to cover lactation consultations, and the amount, I think, is up to the insurance company. Usually it's somewhere between 3 and 6 visits that are covered 100%. And then after that, the insurance company will dictate what extra they're willing to do. Rather it's 2 more full, or maybe they'll cover 5 more, but at 50% coverage or something like that. So you would have to look at your benefits. So yes, they are covered. It just depends on your insurance company, how much visits they'll cover. The flip side of that is where I say no, because not all, so there are lactation consultants that are private practice lactation consultants. I am one of them. And so usually private practice lactation consultants are not covered by insurance, not because they don't want to be, it's because the insurance companies don't want to work with them. So Aetna is one that is willing to work with private practice lactation consultants, but the other ones don't really work with us. So unless that private practice lactation consultant works with a biller like myself, then they don't really accept, they don't really take insurance. But because the ACA mandates that lactation services has to be coverage, one thing that some private practice lactation consultants do is they will create you what is called a super bill. And either they will file that on your behalf so that you can get reimbursement for the consultation, or they'll give it to you and then you can file it and seek reimbursement for your visit. And so when I have mothers to come see me privately and they aren't covered by my insurance, that is the insurance companies that my biller goes through, then that is what I do. I provide them a super bill and then they mail that to whoever their insurance is. And then their insurance will pay them back for the visit. And me personally, I make sure that I set my prices to what the insurance company will reimburse so that you are getting that visit. I know for sure you'll get that visit covered, but that's just what I do. As far as low cost programs, I don't know any that are international off the bat. I would think you just have to look locally and see what's in your area. One program that comes to mind is WIC, but you have to meet certain qualifications in order to be on that program. And not all WIC offices are the same. Not all of them have lactation consultants within them. Not all of them have peer counselors. So if you are on the WIC program, you would have to ask specifically, is there somebody there that is an IBCLC or a CLC or a peer counselor or somebody there to help with lactation? I know personally where I'm at is a very rural area. So usually they have one peer counselor for like 6 offices. So, like they're working hard. So the day that you need them, they may not be at that particular office. They may be somewhere else. So you would have to, call and work that out. But La Leche League has La Leche League leaders, and that's just like mother to mother or peer support. So if you don't feel like the issues that you have is needing somebody that has like clinical skills, then La Leche League is a perfect place to go just for simple help or simple breastfeeding questions. The same with WIC. But if you're needing like clinical skills, you're really going to want that lactation consultant. And you would just have to call the ones in your area, see if they work with your insurance. Some of them take payment plans. I know all my friends do. That's just how we roll. So
Yeah, and I mean, check with your hospital, because a lot of hospitals, like Dominique works at a hospital, offer lactation clinics that either they handle all the insurance, or they provide them at no charge to mom. You just kind of have to, like Dominique said, see what's in your area. But I would say most of the time, I won't say all of the time because I know there are circumstances, but most of the time you can find somebody that can help you within your resources. And again, if you're really struggling to find somebody or that just feels overwhelming, send us an email to elsie@kiinde.com. Dominique is tapped into the database of lactation consultants. If nothing else, she can get you somebody's name and phone number to start off your journey.
And I've done that before. So
yeah. So this question says, I'm 3 weeks postpartum. Congratulations. And I had a great supply up until now. I have been pumping and trying to breastfeed as possible since my little one was born because we had issues feeding at the breast. Any tips to boost my supply? So the first thing that I'll say in regards to this is that when we hit the 2 to 3 week postpartum mark, our hormones are starting to kind of level off. All those birth hormones that we had are starting to level off. So it is very to see some regulation, which can feel like a supply dip. For example, that may look like you had extra milk or oversupply, in those weeks, and then now you've regulated to just what your baby is taking. Or maybe you have to work a little bit harder with the pump, start to use some hands-on pumping or hand expression in conjunction with your pump sessions, because your body's like, okay, I'm going to make what all that this pump is removing. So you have to give it a little more kind of to get it to remove more. So the first thing I just want to reassure you is that if you are making enough milk to feed your baby every day, your supply is great. Having any oversupply, while we know that that can be beneficial and it can feel really reassuring, it's not necessarily the biological norm. It's not what your body was set up to do. So if you're seeing a normal regulation, then just know to just keep on going. Keep putting your baby to the breast and skin to skin as much as they will. If you feel like you're supply is gone below what your baby needs, then that may be an issue. And I will ask Dominique to kind of speak on what the steps would be if you are not producing enough milk to actually feed your baby each day.
So if you are not producing enough breast milk, so like you put your baby to breast and your baby comes off showing signs of hunger and won't stop until you supplement with like maybe pumped breast milk after, that may be a good time to make sure that you after for at least 15 minutes. I reach out to a lactation consultant and let them know what's going on, that your baby needs to be supplemented after feeds, and that you need to be seen to kind of figure out what's going on. Start counting the diapers, making sure baby is still making the amount of diapers that they need to be making per day of life, because that's a very good sign enough is if you're just exclusively breastfeeding, no pumping, no bottles, and your baby's not making diapers. That's a good sign that baby is not getting enough. And again, I tell people all the time, hungry babies are not quiet, at least not in the beginning. So again, if you're putting baby to breast and baby comes off immediately and reading around and still hungry and won't stop until they get supplementation, that's a good sign too that you should probably call lactation consultant to be seen in person, and they'll make sure the baby's latch is fine. They'll do an oral assessment to make sure baby doesn't have any restrictions, because sometimes those restrictions can make it so baby isn't getting enough. So you yourself could be producing, but baby just may not be able to get that milk out of the breast for some reason. And they'll be able to see that and kind of note what's going on there. But yeah, count diapers, watch baby's behavior at the breast. They should be going to the breast hungry, coming off full and relaxed, alert, or either asleep, and give you at least a good hour and a half to 2 hours between feeding sessions.
Yeah, and we also know that 3 weeks is a very common time for cluster feeding. So if your baby's wanting to be at the breast constantly, or just even if you're feeding pumped milk and you feel like they're wanting to eat more frequently, it may be beneficial to offer small amounts more frequently to kind of mimic the cluster feeding experience at the breast, because that is the natural way of your baby's, when your body starts to do that regulation. Cluster feeding kicks in at all those regulation times to help keep those hormones going and help keeping your supply up. And this next question feeds really nicely into this. This question from Casey says, how much is a 2-month-old supposed to be eating? For some reason, I can only pump 4 to 5 ounces. Casey, 4 to 5 ounces is a really, really great expression. I want you to remove that only from your thought process and know that 4 to 5 ounces is very normal. It's actually really, really great expression. Your 2-month-old should be taking about 1 to 1.5 ounces per hour. So say they're feeding every 2 to 3 hours, then they're going to be taking, 2 to 4-ish ounces in that feeding. So 4 to 5 ounces actually then gives you maybe even a little bit extra with each pump or expression. So you're doing great.
Yeah.
4 to 5 ounces is awesome. So just know that 1 to 1.5 ounces for bottle fed pumped milk. Of course, at the breast, we don't have an exact gauge, but we know a lot of study has gone into watching babies feed and about how much they remove at each session. That has gone into how that 1 to 1.5 ounce guideline has been set up. So you can kind of guesstimate that that's about the same that baby is removing from the breast. So I think you're doing great.
I do too. And in fact, if I saw you outpatient and your baby was at the breast and removed at least 2 ounces from you, I would be satisfied. So I think you're doing great there. And if your baby is 2 months and taking more than this, then you need to make sure that the bottle nipple is a slow flow nipple, and you need to look up paced bottle feeding and slow down those feeds, because then that means that baby is being overfed a little bit if they're taking way more than this, because that is an exceptional amount that you are pumping.
Yeah, you're doing awesome. This question says, any tips on how to store milk while at the workplace? I don't want to place my pumped milk in the fridge where everyone keeps their lunch. I will have a little cooler, but how long will that last? So a lot of moms are uncomfortable putting their milk, in a shared fridge. That is completely understandable. The current storage guidelines say that in a cooler bag with frozen ice packs, milk can be in there for, I think, up to 12 hours. So as long as those ice packs, just watch your ice packs. You may find it beneficial if you have a freezer to keep like an additional set of ice packs in the freezer so that you can rotate them out. But you should easily be able to keep that milk in your cooler for, your 8 to 12 hour workday.
Okay, you're waiting on the screen.
No, you're fine. This question from Brittany says, with the pandemic, we are not allowed to attend any classes except online. What would be your best advice for a first time going into this? I assume, Brittany, that you're talking about like breastfeeding classes. Everything has to be virtual. There are a lot of lactation consultants, and Dominique may be able to speak more to this on a personal level, that are doing fabulous virtual classes right now.
Yeah.
While hands-on experience is always really great, they can teach virtually the same information that they teach you in the class, and then you can get the hands-on experience from them when you see them at delivery. And there are all sorts of lactation, professionals and groups that you can find out there that are doing virtual classes right now. I would venture to say that the education is just as good. It is a little bit of a different experience, but I don't think you're going to learn any less from a virtual class as you would from an in-person class. I've witnessed some of Dominique's virtual classes, and she does a fantastic job. So I think that you will just kind of reassure that a lot of what you learn in a breastfeeding class prenatally is education that's not so hands-on. Like, because obviously your baby's not here yet. The educator may have like an educating baby, a doll that they use, or a demo breast, but it's not as much hands-on as it is asking questions, learning proper expectations, things like that. Because really the hands-on part of breastfeeding, you need your baby for that part. So I don't think, and Dominique, please feel, chime in as well, but I don't think you're going to lose any value by taking a breastfeeding class virtually.
Yeah, no, they've been teaching breastfeeding classes virtually for a long time. Like Erin said, in-person breastfeeding classes, the only difference is like mine's, I do have some, I'm sorry, my dog's attacking me over here. I do have some hands-on things, but it's just demo things to help you learn latch. So when I do teach virtually, I make sure parents bring like a lollipop or bring like a t-shirt that we can fold and pretend like it's a sandwich or something like that. So you don't lose that part of hands-on stuff, at least with me. But a lot of virtuals are live, so you can ask questions just like you would in a regular classroom setting. They have videos that they can upload into the presentation on the screen, just like they would do if you were sitting in front of them. You would be looking at a screen watching a video. So at least now you can do it in your pajamas and you don't have to brush your teeth on a bra.
Yeah.
The best part about it, because we both get to be comfortable.
Right. Yeah. And like Dominique said, the lactation professionals, lactation consultant, things like that. Really, if you look back at the history, it's just recent that they're becoming more and more accessible and available. So there are lactation consultants who have been around for, a long time, who have been offering virtual classes because somebody may not have a lactation professional in their area. There may be a financial barrier. There may be a language barrier. So in the lactation world, at least, virtual, like, we weren't just thrown into virtual. Right. It was something that a lot were already doing. So they really do have it down packed.
Yeah. But I will
say
best advice for a class, because there are some where it's like you give me money and then I'll give you this program, and it's just like you click through at your own speed, and that's fine. But if you are a visual learner and if you are one that has lots of questions, make sure the breastfeeding class that you sign up for is a live class, so that you'll have that lactation consultant in front of you and you can ask them questions as you go through, as you're coming up with them. The one thing I get personally in my personal inbox is they've taken a class that was a click through, and then now they found a lactation consultant and they are giving me 100 questions and I have no idea what the perspective that they're getting this stuff from. So if that is you, and that is not necessarily a bad thing, we all learn in different ways, but if that is you, then a live class, kind of like what's happening now, is going to be more ideal, so that you can ask your question, you can get answers. If you don't understand, then then it can be explained differently to you, and you walk away from the class more fulfilled and feeling like you know what you're doing. You have some empowerment or encouragement that you can actually at least attempt to breastfeed your baby. You know what to do. You have that baseline. You won't go into it still having lots of questions because they didn't get answered right away.
Right. Yeah. That's really great advice. This question's from Victoria. Says, any tips for tandem nursing? I'm due with my first boy in November and have a 10-month-old also. So quickly, and I'll have Emma put the link into the comments so you can read this. But Dominique did write a really great blog post for us on tandem breastfeeding, and of course she will talk more about it here live. But I'll make sure that link gets into the comments of this live. That way, if you want to refer back to that blog post, it's got a lot of really, really awesome information. But yeah, Dominique, maybe you can share a little bit more about what tandem breastfeeding will look like, especially with babies so close together.
Yeah. So my first advice to you is to make sure you have lots of hands around the house that are willing to pick up some of the slack, because the first couple of days are probably going to be lounging and sitting.
Lots of feeding.
Called deep couch sitting. I think tandem can look like any way you want it to look like. If we leave it up to the kids, they will nurse all the time. That 10-month-old will be a little bit jealous, so is going to want to nurse every time the baby does. Which if that baby's nursing 8 to 12 times in 24 hours, that 10-month-old is going to feel like they do as well. The 10-month-old may not care, and may wean themselves a little bit, to, I don't want to nurse with that thing's there, so that may happen too. But tandem is when you're nursing pretty much siblings, is usually when it happens at the same time, or twins. So you could have, and it doesn't even have to necessarily be babies as close together. I've got lots of friends that tandem like a 2-year-old and a newborn together. It's just two babies being nursed at the same time. And most likely though, it's just siblings and twins. So you're nursing 2 babies at once. And but like I said, it can look like any way you want to. You can set some limits for the 10-month-old. You sir can only nurse, or ma'am, I guess, can only nurse, every XYZ time. They don't really need to nurse as much because they have solids. My best advice is to make sure that the newborn is eating first, and make sure that you alternate the breasts. I know some moms like to dedicate a side to one baby and dedicate the other side to the other, where there is nothing really wrong with this. But it's good to alternate the breasts, because if you're going to be nursing both babies, they might as well get the benefit of the antibodies. And if you're only nursing one on one side, that milk composition is going to be different than the milk on the other side. So if you're constantly swapping up sides, which one gets it, then both sides are being getting that same message. And so the composition is going to be the same on both sides. And then also too, that 10-month-old is going to be a way better nurser than that baby. So let that 10-month-old help you with that engorgement as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of benefits, to tandem breastfeeding. It can help with the transition because it's something that your older baby, when you're in an older baby, right, situation, is used to and comfortable with. Like Dominique said, some of it is just kind of waiting to see how their little personalities develop.
Yeah.
And, if the older baby, they may be like, oh wow, look at this baby's nursing all the time, so I want to, or they may be like, not a fan of that, such situation. I'll nurse on the different, on the opposite hours or whatever. You'll figure out what works for you. And in the blog post that Dominique wrote, she did put kind of some examples of what it may look like, so you can kind of get an idea. But you'll find what works best for you. The only other thing I will add to that is, you know, as with any breastfeeding mom, it's really important to take care of yourself, but especially
Yeah.
if you're tandem nursing and breastfeeding two babies, don't forget to feed yourself. Don't forget to stay hydrated. Don't forget to take 2 minutes, even if it's just 2 minutes out of the day, to take a deep breath and do what makes you happy. Because we all know as moms how easy it is to get touched out when we neglect ourselves.
That's right.
So I know that can be easier said than done, but that would be the only other thing that I would suggest is try to talk to your support people or other caregivers to set it up so that you have at least maybe a minute to yourself. They make sure that you're, eating snacks and eating meals and drinking water, so that, your health stays intact as well. We don't want to worry just about the babies. We worry about moms too.
Right.
This question from Lexi says, my baby nurses to sleep. It's not a problem now, but will he start rely on nursing to sleep? So personally, as a mom, I never had an issue with my babies nursing to sleep. Both of my kids breastfed before they fell asleep, and sometimes to sleep till over 2 years old. Um, we know that from some studies and things like that meeting our baby's needs, whether it's through breastfeeding or bottle feeding or snuggling or whatever, actually helps them to develop healthy attachments, which makes self-soothing easier. So really it's up to you. If you feel comfortable and if everything is going well in your house and you're happy with the sleep situation and your baby's happy with the sleep situation, then go for it. There does come a time, and Dominique can attest to this as a mom of older children as well, that they naturally just start, they don't want, it's not that they don't want you involved so much, but they want you involved in different ways. And they will do that naturally on your own. So my kind of advice on that is that, it's as long as you're happy with how things are going, it's not a problem. If you're completely overwhelmed with the sleep situation and it's totally ruining your mental health, you're feeling touched out, you need something different, then you can work on different soothing methods at bedtime. It may be that another caregiver, rocks baby, or you work on some, depending on how old your baby is, if they're above that kind of 6 month mark, that's kind of the gauge for me personally, where you can start to practice helping them to self-soothe on their own, things like that. So again, like we say with so many things, it's very personal. But if you're happy with it, then I don't think it ever really becomes a problem.
I agree. I nursed all mine to sleep. I don't have time to be patting backs and put baby to sleep and listen to screaming all night. It just makes life so easier. And I mean, my youngest is 4, and now there's nobody in my bed, and sometimes it's kind of lonely. There's nobody snuggling me. Especially if my husband stays up late and watches football because it's football season. Usually I had somebody at least to snuggle me to sleep. So yeah, I agree. I mean, I nursed all mine to sleep. I cherished it. They do grow up, they do stop. Just like, people that bed share, they're like, their baby's never gonna get out of your bed. Mine all left. And and they, for the most part, they did it on their own. There's just like, I just need my own space, and they just stopped nursing to sleep. They just would just crawl in their beds and just go to sleep. They didn't need me no more. So I agree with Aaron. If somebody is telling you it's a problem, but you don't feel it's a problem, then I wouldn't worry about it. But if it's like messing with your health, then it's a problem. But it's totally natural for them to use the breast to go to sleep. And in my personal experience, I found it easier. It's just
Yeah.
less do. If I wanted them to
Well,
sleep, put them on and they're out.
yeah, and I think something else that I know can be a concern, and obviously I've worked with lots of moms and I have two kids myself, so I know what it's like to be worried that your baby won't sleep for someone else because they're used to sleeping at the breast. Um, in my personal experience, my babies they seem to recognize when it was somebody else. And so it was like my husband had different soothing methods that they did together, and they were special for them. Like they were things that me and my baby didn't do together, that he and the babies did together, or when they went to grandma's house or whatever. In fact, I always used to get so frustrated because both of my kids at my mother-in-law's house, she could just lay them down in the pack and play and they would go to sleep.
Yeah.
And and at my house, I have to be like breastfeeding, and I'm like, rude. That's so rude. Even though I loved breastfeeding them, they would do that for her. So I think be reassured, that if you're comfortable with what's happening, then it's okay. And if somebody is telling you it's not okay, then have a conversation with them and say, hey, this is working for us. If it is a situation like, they're not sleeping at the sitter or something like that, then it may be worth saying, these are the other things we baby wear, or here's a blanket that that has my smell on it, or maybe offer a bottle, things like that to work out some kind of something that makes everybody happy. So I think we have time for one more question, and then we will draw the winner for our gift set. And this question says, how do you help a baby nurse when the letdown is strong or fast? What are your tips for that, Dominique?
So I usually suggest laid back nursing for that. So which is, I don't have a baby doll within reach, but you just do semi-reclined, laying down, maybe like in a recliner, or the long ways on the couch, and then put baby face down on you. This will help the gravity of the milk flow for baby to handle the flow better. You can stimulate or pump to your letdown and then attach the baby once the letdown has already happened, so it's not so overwhelming for the baby. Or if you can feel your letdown, sometimes you can let the baby nurse and unlatch the baby while you're having the letdown and then put baby back on. Or you can put some pressure here to kind of slow the flow a little bit and see if that helps. If it's very overwhelming, if your baby is coughing or sputtering at the breast or turning blue or vomiting, then you might want to seek help from lactation in person, or maybe even a virtual consultation, just to see if, again, the baby doesn't have any oral anomalies that are causing baby not to be able to handle the flow. I've worked with some babies too that had throat issues, and really, so mom thought she was having an overactive letdown, but really baby had throat issues and it was acting like that. And so, sometimes seeing somebody in person, you can see another issue where it's pretending to be something else where it's not. So if your baby's doing any of that, then I would maybe seek out lactation just to make sure there's not something other going on that's causing baby to do this. And then that way too, they can see baby's behavior at the breast, and then they can suggest a better position or a better solve for your particular letdown and your particular baby.
Yeah, seeing somebody in person is never hurts. I think, and I don't know, I'm sure Dominique can attest to this too, that I see lots of parents who are like, I'm so sorry, this is a dumb question, this is a silly reason to come see you, and no reason is a silly reason professional. So even if it is just that your baby is, you have a quick letdown, and that's what they tell you, hey, you have a quick letdown and these are the things that you can do. No time is ever wasted supporting a parent. So don't be afraid to reach out for help, no matter how minimal or trivial the question feels. Most lactation professionals do what they do because they love it. and they want to support moms and they want you there in their office. So don't be afraid to, the worst that comes out of a lactation visit in person is reassurance.
That's right.
Right? Worst case scenario, nothing is wrong.
Right.
Everything's going well, and you walk out of there with reassurance and another tool, another support person on your side. And like Dominique, explained, if something else is going on, they can see it, they can give you hands-on advice. Sometimes they can see something else that may be going on. Personally, I had overactive letdown with both of my babies, and we did reclined nursing, or my babies usually would just pull off. Like they would be like, okay, I need a break. And milk would be, all over their faces and stuff like that. And then they would pop back on when it slowed down a little bit. But there's a lot of different things that you can do. And again, if you do not have somebody that you know or you're comfortable with seeing in person, send us an email to lc@kiinde.com. Our team will do their very best to answer your questions via email, and then get you connected with either a virtual service or an in-person service that can really help make sure that you get the answer you need, your issue is completely solved. And the winner of our gift set this evening is Brittany Gaspard. I hate saying these names because I know I always butcher them. So Brittany, send us an email to support@kiinde.com, and we will get you your Twist gift set sent out. And as always, thank you guys so much for being here with us tonight and for spending your time with us. We love your questions. Please, if we didn't answer your question tonight, keep it going in the comments. We'll be in there answering those questions and making sure that everybody gets the support that they need. And we will see you in 2 weeks.
That's right.